if you have taken Jira as a tool, there are a lot of changes happens. As an example, I'm just taking this. Okay. Yeah, this was our project we have taken. Earlier, you can see here there are goals and all the right goals, etc. So these kind of goals and all everything was not there earlier, because in this Jira project earlier, if you see when we are working in the beginning days, there won't be any goals kind of, because there won't be any roadmap. Normally, this is not timeline. We used to call it as roadmap. After that, it was named after as timeline. That's a different thing. And we don't have any calendar as such. This is something which was added new nowadays. Right. So calendar, because if you want to plan any sprints and all everything, the calendar option is also added. At the same time, goals option also added. At the same time, if you want to make any settings in project rules, for example, you're going for automation. If you want to make any kind of changes and all, I think nowadays, as I observe that AI, because they are beta version, I think it's not the full version anymore. I think AI, because if you want to create any kind of create rules or something like that. So if you want to create rules, even artificial intelligence enabled creation of business rules were also coming up nowadays. So there are a lot of versional changes will be taken place, depends on the requirement which industry needs, which industries demands. So it's always important to have an understanding over the continuous feedback, because we have to do the continuous feedback. So when there is a continuous feedback happening, so that you can understand what are the flaws, I don't say flaws, what are the expectations market requires, and how to improvise the product. Because unless until if you don't improve your product in regular intervals, there won't be any life. Sustainability won't be there. Any product you can see, right? So product requires some updations to be made uh, again and again, right? So then only improvisation will be there. So when there is an improvisation, automatically the product will have that acclaimed by the people, right? So who has taken the services or who are about to take the services will be on the race every time. Otherwise, it is difficult. So improvising the current product, right? At the same time, when there is any kind of releases which we wants to do, right? So coming up with some new versions. So if you want to come up with new versions, first of all, team should know what are the changes to be made. What is that customers are expecting? What is that business is expecting? Market is expecting. We have to know about the predictions, what is needed in future. Based on that, subsequent changes we have to make. So it's always important to have an option for continuous feedback. That is also one of the life cycle which normally we follow. At the same time, continuous deployment. This is where, as I told you, because continuous deployment is required. So whatever the product was done so far, whatever the product we have deployed so far, that has to be deployed. That has to be deployed for the customer need. Because unless until if the product is not deployed, why customer will be taken? Okay, because you have to deploy in the customer environment, make sure the product is working fine. Then customer will be ready to take up the product, right? Otherwise, customer won't be ready to do that. This is where continuous deployment comes into picture. Means we need to ensure the deployment must be with the maximum accuracy. Maximum accuracy means 100% what customer expects is what something which we have to be delivered. This is where generally continuous deployments comes into picture. Once continuous deployment, the next is continuous operations. Operations means you are releasing the products. For example, if you have taken releases, especially if you can Jira, for example, there are some releases. And the last time also I told you, right? So there are releases which we can plan. We can create a release planning. You can go to features over here. Releases can be enabled. Yeah, release, you can enable the release. And releases will be planned over here, right? So releases, for example, release one. So when is the release one? For example, we are creating one release one we are creating. Okay. So when is the date? Maybe from here onwards, it is 2 months or 3 months. So once you are saving automatically, this release will be planned. So agile is release based implementation, means we plan the release based on that implementation will be taken place. This is how, for this, what is required? It's always important to create a life cycle where there must be a continuous operations, means automating the process of release, so that if there is any kind of product which is ready and deployed and ready for deliver, okay, automatically release has to be planned. Even I'm talking about shorter development life cycle, I'm not talking about the whole application, because I told you in the beginning, because we are developing all these in small chunks. This is where generally continuous operations comes into picture. So this is what something which being into DevOps environment, if anybody wants to know, this is what and how generally DevOps life cycle is all about.